going to be demonstrating how I do the English paper piecing pieces for my project Full Bloom. This project takes 3 different hexagons. It takes a smaller one, a larger one for in between, and this different shaped one, which is actually called a coffin shape. But oh, that just sounds so awful. So when Paper Pieces, the company that makes these for me, put them together, we decided to call them Yellow Creek Hexies. I think that's a much better name than a coffin piece. So the pieces for this project are not very big on the inside. And so for the sake of demonstration today, I'm going to be showing you with some larger pieces. They're all done the same way, whether we're doing the smaller pieces or we're doing the larger pieces. But so that you can see what I'm doing a little bit better, as I said, I'm going to be using the larger pieces. Some things that I like about English paper piecing is, number one, it is exact and precise, especially if you use the pre-cut pieces that we have for you. It also is travel friendly the way that I do it. And that's what's so great, because I don't have to think that I need to get my pieces cut before I go somewhere. I can just pick up my fabric and go, and I'm ready to start the project. So we're going to start off with the piece for the in between of all of the flowers. This is just a regular hexagon, and you can start with a square as the instructions tell you to, and I'll show you how to be doing that in a minute. But again, I like how it's travel friendly, so if I don't have my squares cut ahead of time, I know that I can still just take my fabric. And I know that some of my friends' head is going to explode right now because I'm not cutting a strip. I'm just cutting, and this is a technical term, I'm just cutting a hunk out of my fabric. That way I don't have to have anything done ahead of time. I'm making sure that my piece of fabric is more than 1/4 of an inch on all sides of my fabric. Now I'm just going to snip the corners off. This makes it kind of like a hexagon. This side's a little long, so I'm going to cut him off. But I want to reduce the bulk, especially if I'm working with some smaller pieces. I don't want all the bulk of that fabric in there. I like to thread baste, especially on small pieces. You can see there's really no paper showing on the back, so I really wouldn't have anything to glue to. So thread basting helps me make sure that my fabric is nice and tight around all my pieces. I use a contrasting thread because this thread basting is going to come out later, and I want to be able to see it easily. So I've just got just a brighter color thread than what my fabric is. And I can use any thread that I want. It doesn't have to be great thread, but I do want it to be a contrasting color so that I can see to take it out later. Maybe you even have a bobbin laying around that you don't know why you have that color, or maybe you have some of Grandma's thread that you're not sure of the quality. This is a good time to use that up. I'm going to fold my fabric over my hexagon piece, and I have just a knot on the other end, and I'm going to have that on the pretty side of the fabric. Again, so I can see to take it out easier later. Now I'm just going to fold a side over that cardboard hexagon piece, stitch all the way through the cardboard and everything. Now there are methods to be able to just catch the corner of that fabric folded over, but I find I can get it much tighter if I actually stitch through the cardboard and everything. Now I want that to be kind of in the center, not real close to the outer edge, because I don't want to risk catching it later. Now this last side, I want to push those sides in and fold it over. And again, I'm going to use a technical term because I call this the chubby side. And we're going to see the importance or the usefulness of that chubby side later. I've made my stitch, but I'm going to put one last one in there, and I'm going to take it all the way across to the other side and out the back. Now I don't want to mess with another knot later, so I'm just going to clip that off and leave a tail. Taking it across the hexagon helps hold that in place. Now, if I'm doing the other shape pieces, the Yellow Creek hexies, I'm going to do it in the same way. I'm just going to clip my corners a little bit differently than I did on the other one to follow the shape of the piece. When I start stitching, when I start basting this, I am going to fold on this long side so that I end on the shorter straight side. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because I want that chubby side again to end up on the short side. And again, I'm going to show you the importance of doing that. Once I have my pieces all basted, I am ready to start joining them together. I like to join my flower pieces and create all of my flower pieces and then sew my in-between pieces later. Elizabeth had wondered about sewing them in rows or how I go about doing that, but I actually sew the flowers and then you can willy-nilly kind of sew it all together as you choose. There's no need to actually work in rows or sections. I oftentimes work from the inside out, but you can go from left to right, whatever works for you. This time when I stitch, I do want to use a good quality thread, but I want to use a contrasting thread that I can see. As I get older, especially, my eyes aren't as great, so having a contrasting thread makes it easier for me to see where I stitched. If you do it in a different method, which a lot of people have chosen to do, putting right sides together and whip stitching it, you have to be very careful what color thread you use, because when you open that up, sometimes that thread shows on the outside. And to me, that's a little unsightly. So taking a little time to get used to holding your pieces differently, I like to do them side by side from the back. This is where the chubby part comes in as an important factor. So I've got two chubby sides that I'm going to put together. I've put a knot on the end of my thread, and I'm going to come out in a point of either my hexagon or my flower. If I have two chubby sides together, it's much easier for me to catch fabric because there's simply more fabric there. Now I'm going to make a knot through that loop. If I do that at every intersection, then I am able to know that I have a knot no matter what happens to my thread along the way. Now I'm just going to catch that fabric from those chubby sides. Again, it's easier with the chubby sides together, but if you don't have them together, because it's not always going to work out that way, it's not a big deal. Now you can see I've made a couple stitches, but now my fingers are getting in the way. So all I'm going to do is turn all of it around, and then I'm going to work from the other side. Again, just catching the fabric on the back. Oh, sometimes it gets looped around. You got to make sure that it stays on the back. And I'm just going to continue till I go to the other end. People often ask how many stitches I need to have. Well, you know, there's really not a magical number. But if you hold it up and can see daylight through, you need a few more. But you certainly don't have to have them so tight and close together either. Now I'm at the end, so I'm going to make that knot once more. Now I'm able to slide my thread and needle through that fold on that flower petal and come out at the point. And now my next piece will butt right up if I had it basted together. I thought I had another one here. Then I would be able to just butt it right up next to, and then I can continue whip stitching down this side all the way down and across to the other side. And then again, I'm going to slide it through the fold, and I can just continue all the way around my flower. Once I get my flower made, no matter what size my piece is, I can easily take that paper out. But I have to make sure that it's surrounded by other pieces because I need those other pieces to keep the stability for the fabric. So if I am going to take this middle piece out of the larger flower, I'm just going to cut that knot off that I had made so that I could see it on the top. Now I'm just going to pull that basting thread. See how easily it comes out? I go to the back, and if I open it up, the only thing holding it was the basting, so it pops right out. Some of the larger pieces I can reuse again after I've taken them out. You'll know that you can't use it anymore if it's kind of soft and squishy. Now the smaller pieces you can't use as many times over. There's just not enough room after you've poked holes. So I'm going to show you how easy it is even with the small pieces. Again, cutting that knot off from the pretty side, pulling the basting out, which comes out very, very easily. And now going again to the back, and if I fold it open a little bit, I can reach in and easily grab that piece out no matter what size it is. Now, once I have my flowers all made, then I can lay all my pieces out and decide how I want them to be next to each other. I will be adding my larger hexagon as my in-between piece then, and as you can see, if I want to sew this one to this one, it's just going to fit right in there nice and easily, and then I can add the next flower and the next flower and the next flower, inserting the hexagons, the larger hexagons, as needed to create it. So there's no real row or system that you have to follow to be able to join it all together. You can leave the papers in the real small size. Some people ask me about that. If you're going to leave it in, I would only do that if you're going to frame it or do something like that with your project. So be sure and take the papers out if you plan to use it as a quilt or another project. Otherwise, you're perfectly fine to leave it in. I would definitely take my basting out though, because that looks a little unsightly if I leave that in. So that's how I do the hexagons, whether they're small pieces or large pieces, and I hope you find them as fun and relaxing to do as I do.